and Flora Hewlett Foundation.
Tonight on California Connected, police hunt for a serial killer.
We believe that the offender is likely in custody in California State Prison.
A place where felons can just say no to giving DNA samples.
Our offender may get out next week. He may get out tomorrow. He may get out next month. And we'll never know. But we will know when he begins to rape and kill again.
And wonder why kids have trouble learning in California schools? After teaching in the cafeteria during lunchtime, the weight room is looking pretty good to this teacher.
I lasted 3 days in there. And then I went to the head of the PE department and literally got on my knees in the parking lot and begged her, because I'd heard she had a room that was full of broken down equipment. I would have taken that. And she gave me this. So I am happy to be here.
And writer Sandra Tsing Loh feels the sting of the cobra. Welcome to California Connected. I'm David Brancaccio. Up first tonight, they are called cold hits. That's when a match is made between a prisoner's DNA and evidence from an unsolved case, some of them decades old. But is California lagging behind when it comes to using prisoners' DNA to solve the crimes? Allison Tom has the story.
Detective Larry Poole in Santa Ana is obsessed with finding a brutal serial murderer and rapist who frequently telephoned his victims before his attacks.
Our offender is one of the most brazen, if not most brazen, serial killers of perhaps American history.
His crime spree stretched from Orange County to Northern California during a 10-year period in the 70s and 80s. Police have now linked him with 10 murders and 50 rapes. In 1978, the killer left this chilling message on the answering machine of one of his future victims.
You can know vicariously, to some degree, the terror that they must have experienced. And every investigator I know that's been given the opportunity to examine this case feels that it's the case that they want solved before they die. And they're passionate about it. If they came into contact with it 25 years ago, they're still passionate about the case. They still care about it. They still want the case solved.
In 1980, Keith and Patty Harrington of Laguna Niguel were asleep in their bed when the killer struck again. The Harringtons were gagged, tied up, and bludgeoned to death after Patty was repeatedly raped. But the serial killer's crime spree suddenly came to an end in 1986.
We believe that the offender is likely in custody in California State Prison. Every day I come into the office, I feel like this could be the day that the offender is identified. I feel that on my weekends. I feel that on my evenings when I'm sitting at home. I feel that the phone's going to ring and someone's going to tell me that the state has matched our crimes to an offender.
Bruce Harrington of Orange County also wants to see the killer brought to justice. Keith Harrington was his brother.
The lack of closure is an internal frustration, wound if you want to call it, that you live with day to day. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't remember walking into the bedroom and seeing bloodstains everywhere, having to carry a bloodstained mattress to the dump the next day on the top of my car. I want to bring closure to those issues.
Bruce Harrington knows his best hope is that DNA samples taken from the crime scene will someday match up with a sample in the state's growing DNA databank, which contains DNA samples from thousands of convicted felons. That's exactly what happened in the Sylvia Edgren case. In Monterey in 1981, the 48-year-old woman was kidnapped, raped, and murdered. The crime went unsolved until January of 2001, when a cold hit led to the arrest of 44-year-old Michael Adams of Salinas. Adams had to give a DNA sample in 1998 after being arrested on a parole warrant for an assault conviction. The sample was taken just 1 month before his release. Because of a huge backlog, the DNA match didn't come up until Adams had been out in the street for a year and a half. Monterey Police Detective Leslie Sonne tracked him down at work.
We started talking about DNA, and he visibly started changing. I actually saw his hands, both his hands started shaking, so he put one in his pocket, and the other one was out in front of him with jingling keys. His lips just went dry as a bone while we were talking to him. It was almost an autonomic response. He started just taking great gulps in between sentences. It certainly cemented in my mind that we were at the right place talking to the right person.
A trial court agreed that they were indeed talking to the right person. In March of 2002, Michael Adams was convicted of first-degree murder and will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. He'd still be a free man today if it weren't for the mandatory DNA blood sample he gave as a condition of his parole.
I need you to sign. This is the card that says that you're giving us your blood and saliva.
Under California law, all felons convicted of violent crimes, sexual crimes, burglaries, carjackings, and arsons must provide DNA samples. But California's prisoners have discovered that they can just say no. Are you willing to give a DNA sample?
No.
And more than 1,000 of them are doing just that. Are you refusing to give a DNA sample?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because I feel it's unconstitutional. It violates my Fourth Amendment right.
Refusing to provide a DNA sample is a misdemeanor, punishable by a maximum $500 fine or a year in jail. That doesn't exactly strike fear into the hearts of criminals serving life sentences. The CDC's current policy is that it will use force to get a sample only if it has a court order. But getting a court order can be a lengthy and difficult process. So far, it's been done in only 30 cases.